So today I decided to do something a little bit productive and go outside and change the transmission fluid in my 722.6. And I was pleased to discover that my serial number is within the range that still is fitted with a drain plug on the torque converter. That makes the change a whole lot more satisfying because you're not leaving litres and litres of filthy fluid in the torque converter just to get mixed with the new fluid. I don't know why, but Ben's decided to save a few cents per vehicle and delete those for a certain number of years. And as you can see, there is quite a considerable amount of fluid in that torque converter. I would hazard a guess that it actually has more fluid in it than the pan does. So I then went and fit a brand new aluminium crush washer to the drain plug and then reinstalled that. And of course I cleaned out that area after it was tightened up to spec. And the spec I used was 20 Newton meters for the torque converter and also for the plug in the drain pan, which I did next. As you can see, this can be a little bit fiddly, even more so if you're trying to hold a camera at the same time. The main thing I was using the camera for right now is actually the light. I didn't really need to shoot this, it's not that exciting. So that's the amount of fluid that came out of the torque converter alone. Utterly preposterous. And I then moved on to the transmission pan, which is also a 5mm hex plug. And this is the early version plug that has a small head, and that massive copper washer is actually more suitable for the later version plug that has a larger head. I didn't bother reusing those huge sealing washers. I just used the same one that was on the same type that was on the torque converter. It has the same surface area and it had the same area where it was contacting anyway. And I'm also going to change the electrical connector housing while I'm doing this because it is leaking, and I did have ATF wicking into my transmission control unit. So once the pan is down, I then basically had a break and just let this continue to drip out into it because I didn't really fancy having this all over my arms, face and hair. And if you give that enough time, then everything goes smoothly without too much mess. This is the fluid that filter that was in there, and it has got a year code of 2013 around December. So the fluid presumably was changed last in 2014, and that is a genuine MB filter, as you can see. I kind of expected it to have been original, but good to see it has been changed anyway. And I've now cleaned up the mounting surface of where the pan goes, and the new filter is installed. I then washed out the pan, made sure that was thoroughly clean. There's no magnet on this one. I don't know that it ever did have one, but yeah, and there was nothing in that pan anyway. It was actually pretty clean. I then tightened it up, finger tight, and moved on to changing that socket. So that's just a 7mm hex-headed bolt that runs in the center of that socket. It's only tightened to like 3 Newton meters, so it's really not that difficult to remove. And it is only screwing into a threaded brass boss in the actual conductor plate, which is plastic, so you don't want to be overly stressing it. I was trying to pull the whole thing out, but that ring popped off instead. But yeah, it doesn't take too much effort to get this out. It's only held in place currently by the pressure of the O-rings around the edge of it. You can see that there. And this was definitely leaking. As mentioned, fluid was wicking up the harness into my transmission control unit, which is a known issue. And to get the new one to go in, it's actually a lot easier using your phone, as I did here, to align the pins, and then it just gets pushed straight in. There you go. Now it can go in. that's all done. Secured and perfect. So everything is tightened up to spec, and I have actually cleaned this since taking this shot. And I am then going to set the level correctly, or at least I thought I was. And then I discovered I didn't actually have enough transmission fluid. This is what I purchased. Fortunately, at the time it was on special. Now, unfortunately, it's double the price, so I've got to get more and pay full retail. My goodness.